Hello, it's Mike here at GameFromScratch, and today we're going to take a quick look at Godot 3.0. Now, I'm not going to make any obvious waiting for Godot puns at this point in time, but we have been waiting for Godot 3.0 for quite a while, and today a bit of something dropped. In fact, they just released the first public release of the Godot engine. It's a Godot 3.0 Alpha 1. Now, if you've been building it from source, you've got an idea of what we've been going on, but this is the first stable/unstable release. So this is not by any means a feature complete. Well, actually, it is feature complete, but it is not production ready. So this is an unstable preview release of Godot to help you, get an idea where they're going, and you can start banging away at the code and hopefully find some bugs and report them accordingly. So this is a binary they've made available for all the various different platforms of the Godot 3.0 game engine. And today we're going to take a bit of a preview, a quick look at what is in Godot 3.0 Alpha 1. Again, big warning, this is a preview. So it's buggy, you probably shouldn't be using it in production, but they are at the point where most of the features that they want are there. It's just now a matter of integrating them in and fixing the bugs. Now, one big feature though that a lot of you are going to be waiting for, I got some bad news. If you're here for C#, the Godot Sharp project is ongoing. It is there in parallel, but it is not in Alpha 1. So C# is definitely coming to the Godot game engine. The code is being updated actively. It is ready to be merged in. It just has not been. So it is not in this release yet. So if you're here for C#, sorry to disappoint you. Hopefully in the next release. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Now it's available as a download on the Godot site, so godotengine.org. Just scroll on down. You can find the various different downloads here. And here we are. Now, one of the major things about this release is definitely the new 3D renderer. It's probably by far and away the biggest new feature. So let's start there. Now, behind the scenes, it has been updated. Now, the target, I believe, is GLES. So that's the embedded version of OpenGL, the one that runs basically in your iPad, etc. Version 3, I think. That's the baseline that they're targeting. So they've moved forward quite a bit. They're not using Vulkan as an underlying engine. And I don't think there's any intention to, but the nice thing is GLES 3 is pretty much at parity with desktop and mobile. So you've got most of the functionality of a modern GPU in there. And there's been a big update in what is supported by the Godot renderer. And if it did have a weakness, it was definitely in the 3D rendering aspects of it before. That was never really the focus. This was mostly a 2D and a 2.5D focused engine, but the 3D just got a whole lot of love in this release. And one of the major things you're going to find is in the materials. So this is one of the examples we've got right now. It's the material tester. It shows the newly supported PBR, or physically based rendering material system that's behind the scenes here. And you can see the effect. We'll come on in here in a second as soon as this loads up. You can see, so here is white plastic being simulated. Mirrored texture, dark wood, cheese, stone, brick, wool, aluminium or aluminum, depending on where you're from, marble, and on it goes. So now there's this new physically based rendering system in there, or PBR system in there. If you've ever used, say, Substance or Substance Designer, you've got an idea what we're going at. But the whole 3D world is moving towards PBR support. And the nice thing is now Godot has it out of the box. So you can really simulate real-world materials and its interaction with, the lighting model of your game. And you can get a lot of detail in here. We'll look a little bit at how this is actually implemented. And another thing you'll see is this skybox system, the environment system, has also been updated. So you see this panoramic background that is going to have an effect on the lighting. So we're going to switch instead to an indoor lobby. And you can see the immediate results on that. Or we'll switch to a park scene. So the environment mapping the panoramic environment is influencing the new lighting and materials model. All right, let's exit that out. Let my fans cool down for a second. So if you hear that noise in the background, sorry, my CPU fans just spooled up. But let's take a look now at one of these guys. So here is the mesh instance. It's this guy, the mirrored section. And here you can see the various different... Actually, let's do something other than mirror. Let's do cheese. All right, so this one is a cheese texture. And you can see the different pieces that go into it. So we're going to go ahead and edit one of these. So it's a spatial texture by default. We'll go ahead and edit that out. So you saw there was also a shader option there as well. And here you can see the new options for a spatial material. And the albedo texture. Basically, this is what used to be your diffuse channel. It's basically where your color channel will come in, but now you can see you can have a metallic ability. You can decide how light is going to reflect off your surface. You've got roughness for simulation, and emission for emitting light out of this particular surface. Normal mapping, so you can see it actually being used here. Clear coat, anisotropy, don't ask me if I said that wrong, ambient occlusion maps, depth map or depth settings, subsurface scattering, which is a way that the light surface or the light interacts with the surface for doing different details. You got a whole lot more control over what you can do with your individual shaders in this particular case, or your textures in this particular case. So the spatial material is probably the heart of the new 3D rendering system, in that this is where you interact with it, and you see you can really simulate real-world materials a lot better than you used to be able to. Now, the other part of this equation is the environment map. So we're going to go down here. See, a world environment has been applied to this particular scene, and we'll go ahead and go into and edit it as well. And you can see here all the different settings you can set for. This would kind of be your global camera rendering settings kind of thing. So this is where you would define that panoramic map, or the your skybox essentially, which interacts with your light. You can change how your sky works here, the intensity, the amount of energy given off. You can set up an ambient light. So if you just want to have no lighting in your scenes, you just want to have flat white coming in from all directions. You can turn fog on and off, auto exposure on and off, subsurface reflections, I believe that is. Subsurface ambient occlusion, depth of field settings, glow, adjustments. I'm not actually sure what that does, but as you can see, you now have a whole lot more control over both the lighting and the environment that 3D works in. This is going to bring the graphic quality of Godot up to the standards of Unity and Unreal. There's a lot of these functionality actually just kind of came to the Unity engine to a certain degree. So this is bringing it a lot closer for 3D functionality and 3D result to what we had before. And you can see here, I can go in and edit the sky mapping and get another set. So here's the panoramic map that's being used in this background right here. So there is a lot more control over your 3D for sure. And another thing you may have noticed as I'm flipping through this is there's also been a lot of streamlining with the editor. They've just gone through and polished things off. We've got new features such as, you can see here our main scene. You can now expand it out for a distraction-free view, so all your other windows will quickly go away. You can drop that back in. You'll see this has been kind of cleaned up a bit up here. The asset lib was introduced in 2.x, and it doesn't actually work in my version of 3.0, but that is one of those features coming soon. Basically, it's one of their asset stores being a little bit more integrated. You've got the ability to control your layouts, clicking here, so you can easily move your selected guy around to various different spots. We can merge into up to 2 different layers of side panels, etc. You can control them here as well, so I can move this guy over to the right-hand side if I so wished, or I can merge him with this guy right here, or I can move him back to where he was. So you've got a little bit more control over your editor layout. On top of that, we come up here and we'll see the menus have been cleaned up a bit. First off, it's spun out, and there's a project in a project settings area. It's been spun out from the scene settings, which is nice. It was always a little confusing having project stuff intermingled with the scene stuff. So they have cleaned up these menus to a certain degree. And there's some stuff behind the scenes that's either in a coming soon or, not really demonstratable well in a video. One of them is GD Native. GD Native is a big new feature that I can't really demonstrate to you that well, but what it is a kind of a bridge. It allows you to dynamically link to native code behind the scenes. It's different than plugins. Basically, you can do it on the fly, but that native code, so your Java code, your C++ code, your Perl code, your Python code, whatever you want it to be, as long as you can talk, I think it's through a C API. As long as it can talk through that API layer, it can interface with the same level of code that GDScript does. So it can really get in there and muck with the majority of the Godot engine. It enables you to basically create extensions that are loadable on the fly dynamically. You don't have to rebuild or change the engine at all, but a little bit more low level and functional than the current plugin system. So it's a very cool addition, and I've already seen some plugins, such as someone offered full native Python support via GD Native, and we can expect a lot more language bindings to show up, or a lot more scripting languages to be added thanks to the GD Native interface. So really, it's a new way of dynamically linking code into the Godot engine, and it makes integrating in other libraries or other languages a whole lot simpler. But it's not something you can easily demonstrate on a video. Again, we have C# support coming soon, not here yet, but that will be definitely one that a lot of people are waiting for. And that doesn't use GD native. That's a little bit lower level than that, and it's going to be tightly integrated into the engine itself. Now, before I move on to show you one last feature, I do want to show you a couple of the more settings we got here. So we go in here, we cleaned up, there's this new editor settings. There's a lot more configurations you can do on the Godot editor itself. Now, the nice thing is it works very, very well with HD high DPI displays, which is one of those areas I fought with in the past. It does a very good job. The interface now has a lot more control over it. It's a lot cleaner just across the board. They cleaned up the way some controls and dialogues actually work. And now you've got support for stuff in here like, for example, theming. So you can come in here and change out default themes. So we'll go back to the default here. And let's close it up. And you see there, it just did across the board changes. So there's a lot of new configuration level stuff you can do for the editor. I believe they also extended what you can do for project settings. And they've also cleaned this up a little bit for where it's located, how it is. Another thing that's in the works, but I don't think it's in this release, is there's VR support coming soon, which is great. Definitely one of the features that the Godot is going to be lacking when you compare it directly to Unreal or Unity in the future. But that is something that's definitely in the works, but I don't think it made Alpha 1 either. But Godot 3.0 should, in fact, have VR support. So those are the big changes on the editor side of things. A lot of the work there was behind the scenes in the 3D render. And plus, there's probably a list of 300 or 400 little things that were tweaked. You know, changes to make the API more consistent or more logical, etc. Changes to, you know, small changes to the classes or to the UI of the editor itself. But I'm not getting into that level of detail. Hopefully, we'll just wait for the Godot 3.0 release notes so we can really go in there with a fine-tooth comb. But one of the other major additions that is available as of now in the 3.1 release is their visual scripting language. Now, this is going to be another option alongside. So basically, we're going to have GD script support, which is a kind of a Python-esque language. It's kind of the default way of programming Godot now. You can program behind the scenes natively using C++ today in this day and age, and technically C as well. And then what we're going to have going forward inside of the editor is going to be C# support as well as visual scripting. And here you can see an example of visual scripting. So here, these are .vs files that have been attached to, they control the code here. So we've got a basic Pong game that was implemented. So there's the paddle and the ball. So look at the code controlling the paddle. Now the ball. Now the paddle. So you'll see here, as I select a particular thing, here are the methods that have been currently implemented. So we can say on area enter. So this is basically the code that will execute as the ball's dimensions are hit by it. So basically, if a collision occurs, this code will fire off. And here you're seeing, obviously, a visual programming language. Some people are going to love this. Some people are going to hate it. It's more like geared towards designers, giving them a visual programming interface. So if you don't want to use this, you don't have to at all, but it is a new option. And when you attach a script to an object, it gives you the option of creating, right now, one of three kinds, which basically is visual script, GD script, or GD native, but you can also in the future do the C# through the same way. So if I go ahead, let's see if I can find something that doesn't have a script. So here, if I go ahead and attach a script to it, you'll see you get the options. So language, you've got those two different options. So visual script is what we're looking at now. Native script is that bridge to other things, and GD script is the current default. And as again, coming soon, C# will also be an option there. And they can intermingle. You can use visual script to prototype and then swap it out later on if you wish. You can kind of have some done in one language, some done in another. It's all completely up to you, and they all interrupt through the underlying interface, so they work just as well. That's the nice thing about using that common language bridge that GD native and GD script currently walk through. It makes it so they all kind of, you know, it's sort of like an ILM. So you can have C#, F#, all these languages compiling down and working together, and you can mix and match. Same deal here in the Godot engine. So the visual programming language you can see here on screen. You can pan around. You can zoom in. It does a pretty good job of it. You see the fonts are pixelating a little bit on maximum zoom, but pretty solid support. You know, drag around and kind of, if you've used blueprints, or there's a number of visual programming languages such as Stencil. It's just the same kind of concept. You basically bring in, you're creating a flowchart. So you see the function starts here. Here's your on area enter, and it goes to here to this typecast, and then the data is mapping here to this is input to this typecast. And then you see here data connecting to another thing, and here's another input coming into it. So on the left hand side you've got your inputs, on your right hand side you've got your outputs, and then your white lines are your program flow or your functionality. And you just sort of drag and drop things together. So if you want to change the flow, you just drag the piece to where you want it to go. And that is, in essence, how the visual script works. You can see the various different nodes that are available here. You can define your variables down here. So I could go ahead and create a new variable. We can now use that in code however we want, like so. Then we could just drag it out, use it as input for anything that took that kind of value. As an example, you've got your functionality down here. So if we need a function, such as, say, call a built-in function, so I need to calculate the arch tangent, just bring that guy in. And your number goes in, your parameter is there, your value goes out, and we could go ahead and break that line like so. And that is essentially how the flowchart graphics side works. Again, visual programming is another option. It does not have any new functionality over underlying GD script. It's not a requirement, but if this is something you want to work with, it is in there, and it is now part of Alpha 1. Now, again, there is so much more going on here until we get the official README or the release notes of it, of the entire release. The big things to be aware of, number one, of course, is this huge new renderer. Number two is that language interface behind the scenes, the GD native, and of course the new visual programming language. But there is a lot more. If you're using Godot on a daily basis right now, 2.x, you'll probably just find that 3's just more polished, more clean, more just improved across the board. And it really is. This is definitely going to be a huge step for the engine. It'll be interesting to see how much gets into the full release. And do let me know if you want me to keep up with each of these preview releases as they're done. I was kind of hoping that Godot 3 would be here soon, but I'd rather than have it finished instead of rushed. So I've been waiting, waiting for Godot. God, I didn't want to say it, but there it came. I've been waiting for Godot for quite a while, and I think a lot of you are too. So we're really excited to see how this 3.0 release turns out. So I thought I would do this preview of what's coming. So in seeing what's here, does this excite you? Do you like the way that the Godot engine is going, or are you a little disappointed? Is there something in there that you want to see that you haven't seen yet? Do let me know. And of course, do let me know if you want me to keep up on the stuff, or do you want me to just wait for Godot 3 to be released? Now again, I do have to tell you, when Godot 3.0 is released, I will be doing a complete tutorial series from scratch on the entire Godot 3.0 engine. So if you're here because of my Godot 2.0 stuff, great news. 3.0 stuff will be coming soon, but I am going to wait for a final release because I don't want the stuff to be outdated before I even start it. So that is something I am waiting for. But this is a bit of a taster. This is what's coming soon. This is why I'm excited about Godot. It's turning into an absolutely amazing engine. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the changes. Is there something new in here that I should have highlighted that you think everyone else should know about? Do let me know in the comments down below. All right, that's it for now. So that's Godot 3.0 Alpha 1. Again, a warning, there be dragons. This is not for production, but it is a hell of a lot of fun to play with, so I recommend you check it out. All right, see you all later. Goodbye.